We are the Artchive, and in the interest of showing off our app that we built, we actually made our PowerPoint slideshow, whatever, in the app itself. So we're going to go ahead and start by going into that, and then we'll sort of explain a little more about the app, how it works, what it's going to be used for, etc. So, all right. So, yeah, you guys want to say?
Yeah, I'm Emma. Oh. That's Teddy. So our client was the Tufts University Permanent Collection, which is Tufts' collection of art that's not always on display at the art gallery, but it's stuff that we own, but it's never on display. So the goal was to create an engaging way for people to actually interact and discover this art without it being on display in the gallery. And the product we came up with to solve that problem was the Artchive, which consists of two parts. One is an admin tool for the museum to upload pieces on like their own time and anything they want to do they're in control of, and then a large touchscreen web app to explore pieces. So yeah, the goal was for the admin was to let the museum have total control over what was uploaded, so it wasn't like we were pulling from their database and they didn't know what we were pulling, especially since a lot of the pieces had privacy and copyright restrictions on the artwork, and so they just wanted to make sure that those pieces were not in any danger of accidentally being uploaded. And it also, through the tool, allows the gallery to edit and delete and add things to stories as they see fit. And the main components for the admin tool were the API, file uploading, and just the front end of the admin portal.
So this was actually a big, doing the admin portal was actually a lot of the work that we did. It was probably the majority of the work that we did. So basically it comes in two parts of the front end and then we do the API. The API is written in Node, so it's a Node server. There's only a few public endpoints, which is used to get all the stuff from our app, which we're going to show later. So there's a bunch of get wraps that you can use, and then there's private endpoints, which require authentication that the people that are doing the uploading at the art gallery use. So you can post, you can put, you delete artworks and stories. We'll get into like what the difference between those is. And also you can sign documents. So a big part of, obviously there's images, there's PDFs, and the way we store those is that we store them in an S3 bucket. And so we upload them in the browser. So the way that works, we'll get into that a little bit later, but you make a call to the API, it gives you a URL to sign. It's a signed URL that you can then put to the S3 bucket. You can also delete documents, and then there's also user authentication. You can make new users, and then you use tokens. Use JSON web tokens as well. We'll get into that too. Okay, so this is kind of our database model. There's stories, and stories consist of multiple artworks. There's a primary story, and then there's secondary stories. So yeah, so stories have description. They have a link to the primary artwork, and then they have a title, and then artworks have a URL, which is the document name, a year, description, title, most stuff you would associate with artworks. A file type, and then a thumbnail, which is just for PDFs, it's a preview of the image that we use, so you can kind of see what it looks like before you open it. And for images, it's just a downsized image. So if you see down here, these are all thumbnails, and there's no PDF, but these are just smaller images that look quicker.
Yeah, that sort of came out of images taking a really long time to load, especially when they're not cached. So we decided to have auto-generated thumbnails that helped out a lot with the load times of the page.
Yep. Okay. This is a sample GET requester API. So it's getting a story with an ID of 3. You want to like zoom? No, we'll zoom in on.
Oh yeah, this is our zoom method. So we wanted something really intuitive. We'll talk about sort of the UI a little bit later, but just to get a general sense of it.
Sure. So this is a basic GET request. You make a GET request to this URL, you get back an ID, a title, a description of the story, and then a primary artwork, and then a list of secondary artworks down here. And there could be as many pieces of secondary art as many as you want. You use authentication with JSON Web Tokens. I don't know if any of you are familiar with how they work, but they're kind of like a stateless kind of way to log in. You have a payload here, which you can put information. Right now, it just has the username, which is my name, and then a time, which as it expires, that's just a timestamp. And then it's encrypted with this secret phrase right here. So the way this works is you make a request to get a token. It checks, you log in with the username and password and make sure that your password is correct. It compares it against the hash. If it is, it returns you a web token as a cookie. And so this is what gets returned basically. This identifies what algorithms use. This is the payload, which is hashed, and then this is some more information about it. So you can't really change this at all without knowing the secret hash down there, which is only kept server side. And then if you want to get to one of the endpoints that requires authentication, like creating a new story or editing one, you need to pass this web token back, and then we make sure that you are a verified user. Cool. So this is how we handle document upload. Right now it supports images and it supports PDFs. So kind of how we talked about before, browser side, a user selects a file to upload, and then the browser makes a request to our API, which gets a pre-signed S3 URL that you put to, and then the browser puts to that. It's only valid for 30 seconds, so like after that, you can't just put random stuff there. And it's only valid for a specific file name and file type. Those aren't the same. Then the signature won't match, and Amazon won't let you put it there. And then from the browser, it puts the image in the bucket. And in a similar way, we create JPEG previews, which you see down here, like I said, for images and PDFs. To create the PDF previews, we use GhostScript, and to create the image previews, we use Graphics Magic. And this is kind of more complicated because we have to wait until the image is actually uploaded to the bucket, and then we pull it from there and then process the image or the PDF to create a thumbnail. But I think it saved us a lot of work in trying to display little tiny PDF previews. And then, so that's just a sample thing. So if you want to do some sample code, like we said before, you can kind of zoom in and stuff like that.
We'll give you guys the link. You can check this out later if you like.
Yep, okay, so that's the first part, and then we go to the second part. Cool. Yep.
So the front end facing up is this thing, this screen right here. It's supposed to be used by anybody coming through the gallery and not just gallery employees, so it's going to be really easy to use. We implemented it on the 27-inch touchscreen in Google Chrome. We chose touchscreen over, at the beginning we were thinking of using a product called Leap Motion, which would have allowed us to do gestures in front of the screen, but we chose touch in the end because touch gestures are just more intuitive, easier to use, and it was preferred by the client. We had a lot of back and forth and decided it was the right choice. It has two main views, which are the main screen view where you see all of the pieces that have been added based on the primary image that's been chosen for that piece, for that story, and then you have a story screen once you click a piece. And a story, we call them stories because there's a primary piece and then there's lots of supplementary images that can go along with it. So, like let's say, one of them from the art gallery that they've given us is a Rotunda statue, and there's lots of different angles of the same statues, PDFs of documents relating to the statue that can be seen in this kind of like bar down here, which we'll show you later. Oh, which we can show you now.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So this is an example, and it just sort of gives you an idea of the layout and how the layout works. Yeah. So we have sort of the piece, the title of the piece, description. The primary artwork is the first one that pops up. and then sort of the side has a description about the artwork specifically, as well as like the title, artist, year, stuff like that. And then you get, obviously, the option to select other pieces from the story down below. So that's sort of the basic view of that.
Okay, yeah, and then these are things that we can.
Did we skip one?
Yeah, I did skip one.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So our open source piece was something we call Color Heist, based off an existing thing called Color Thief by Lukesh Dakar. It creates a color scheme based on a given image. So Color Thief originally just returned a color palette, but what our Color Heist does is it organizes it, all the colors that are returned, and organizes them based on like darkness and vibrancy, and then creates CS rules based on those. So like tells you what should be the background, what should be the text color, what should be the highlight, which is what we utilize. Even here you can see because of this green line here, that's why this is green, it's pulling from this image. So, and it looks really good with more color.
Yeah. So the way that it works is actually really simple. Is this too small? Well, anyway. So like the way, oh, it doesn't zoom because it's full res. The way it works is really easy. Basically, like we just update our color scheme object, and the view itself dynamically pulls a CSS rule from that color scheme. So we store essentially the CSS class that defines, the background of the color, and then when you load this page, that will automatically get put in here. And as this changes, so will the page change. So basically, the way it looks, when you're scrolling through, I'm gonna drop out of this for a sec. When you're scrolling through an artwork or something, we have a lot of Emma's work on here, by the way. So when you pick an image, it'll sort of pull from the image, build the color scheme around that, and then when you change images, it'll change the color scheme to match it. And so the goal of this was to create a really organic feel to it, and something that you wouldn't necessarily notice the first time you looked at it, but as you sort of use the app, it feels very natural. And so that was sort of one of the goals in making it a simple, easy-to-use app that felt really good. So yeah, that's sort of the open source aspect of the project that we built together.
So I guess some things for us to do next semester. Right now, the users. So right now we have to basically just kind of feed in a password for them when we create it. A nice thing to have would be password recovery. So if they forget their password, you can send them an email with a temporary password or a link that they can put their new password. Right now they're gonna have to
recreate the user.
Yep. Allow some different file types to be uploaded. Right now, like we said, it only handles images and PDFs. If we could somehow get videos to work or 3D images, if you have a bunch of pictures and you can rotate and stuff and see behind it and stuff. Or if some other type of media comes along, like VR or something, that would be cool. Story comments. Originally, we were going to have comments on each story, so people could come here, they could leave comments about the story, we could kind of have a conversation about the story, but we didn't quite get to that, and it would have added a lot of complexity because we would have needed the keyboard, way to select comments, moderation, and that kind of stuff. But maybe and then kind of more touch-specific gestures. Right now, every single gesture you can do here is kind of built for a mouse, or a trackpad.
Yeah.
But
which has two effects. It has the effect of allowing a touchscreen, but also making it so that you don't need a touchscreen. You can just visit the URL, and it's a full-scale web application. So.
Yeah. So it would be nice if in the future it kind of had you could swipe and stuff, and they were more maybe touch-centric gestures than just point and click. And now we'll do our demo.
Yeah. So you guys have sort of gotten a chance to see a little bit of how the app works.
Also, feel free to check it out.
Yeah, we'll leave it up at the end, or after, we'll come back and put it up and you guys can sort of play with it. But the general gist of it is that you have sort of stories view, you can click on an individual piece, scroll through the pieces, and I think sort of if you've gotten an idea of how it works, once you sort of go through one story, it's pretty intuitive from there on. And so the expand and zoom works pretty simply, you just can move around it. And then one other thing that you guys haven't seen yet is the PDF view. So we have one that's just really cute cast. And this is sort of what it looks like when you have a really long description. You can just scroll through it. It's pretty straightforward. And the PDF view sort of has, as we described, the thumbnail image preview, and then you can display the document just by clicking on it, and you get to go through and sort of like read the document. You can zoom in and sort of go around, and it's pretty straightforward actually. And that was actually one of the bigger challenges. Apparently getting PDFs to display in a browser is not a very well thought out problem. So yeah. Yeah, so that's sort of the way it works. And then one of the cool things is that the zoom sort of adjusts to the resolution of the image. So if you have a really high res image, it'll just zoom further in and sort of capitalize on whatever resolution's there. So yeah. So that's the IDB on the project. Do you want to show the admin portal really fast, or do we have time?
We don't really have time.
No time? All right, we can do questions.
About like 2 minutes. No? Okay, that's fine.
If anybody wants to see the admin portal.
It's pretty straightforward. I mean, we can just go to the page and show you the story we just created.
So,
Yeah. There's like asshole.
so there's a bunch of documents, you can change the artist, title,
Everything required is in red.
yeah,
And you might create one.
basically, that's it. Okay. Questions?
Okay, questions, John?
Yeah, so I saw like the last thing said small collections. Say you have a series of pieces that want to be together. Is there some way to enter into like a similar thing as the main frame, except am I making sense at all? So like, so you click on a thing and that's like a story about a piece,
Sure.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Say instead you clicked on, like if you had 7 pieces by one artist, you could click on an artist. Is there any way, would it be something that's easy to implement to combine those things?
To
Like,
organize
an
by
artist-
artist or something?
To organize by artist, and then you come up with a similar screen like that. Just add like one layer, one further layer.
Yeah, so conceivably, yeah, it'd be pretty easy to implement. You could basically just add another endpoint that organizes things a little differently and send it to the front end. Or if you wanted to sort of have like a sort function, you could do something similar in that way.
Well, I was wondering, because I don't know how many pieces are in there, but I saw the size of each of those, like,
Yeah.
thumbnails on the main screen, so I was wondering how easy it'd be to find something.
So
else.
we sort of organized it under the basis of, well, the presumption that the art gallery gave us, which was that there are going to be relatively few pieces, so like under 40 pieces
Oh.
on this. And if each piece has its own story,
I didn't
I
realize
guess
it
the
was
goal
that.
was to sort of pack stuff into single stories so that it's a more rich experience for each piece of art, I guess.
Are they going to actually use it?
Hopefully. I hope so, yeah.
Yeah.
What, that's my big question, and we've talked about this all year.
Sure, yeah.
How hard is it gonna be for them to use it? What happens if they need to add more things, and do they know how to do that?
Sure, yeah.
Documentation,
So-
and tell them how to do that.
Through the admin portal, they can add all the content they want. The content's not really limited in that aspect, other than, you know, if you like, you can't upload image or videos, I guess, and stuff like that. We're sort of going through the process now of documenting the entire project and like finishing up the documentation so that another group could expand on it. And the technology we used, we talked about Reactive a little while ago, is a pretty straightforward framework that's really easy to extend and sort of get into, in my opinion at least. So it should conceivably be pretty straightforward to expand on it and add things like videos, sound, stuff like that. Yeah.
Just curious, does it like time out after a little while? Like if someone pulls up a piece of artwork and then walks away, is it going to be on that forever? Or does it go back?
That's actually a really good question, and we were talking with Ethan about that a little bit. We, as of yet, haven't done that. Right now, what it does is when you go into a story and then go back home, it will reload any pieces that were updated while you were on the artwork or on the story page. But what Ethan was suggesting and what I think we might do is have like a 30 or 20-minute timeout that brings you back to some sort of like intro screen that shows some of the images or like the logo and has an instruction to tap to begin or something like that. So yeah, it's a good question.
It's only Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly.
Very good. All right, anybody else? I really like the color heist thing. That's cool. Let's try to publicize that somewhere. It's cool.
All right, sweet.
All right, let's give them a round of applause. Again, please